This way, if I'm doing the wrong thing, it's too bad.
But you don't care that much now. Do
No,
you care less now, you think?
You kind of go with your instincts. You rely more on your instincts as you go along. At least I have.
At 95, Clint Eastwood finally drops the truth about Rob Reiner, and it's got everyone talking. Born Clinton Eastwood Jr. on May 31, 1930 in San Francisco during the rough days of the Great Depression, his early life wasn't glamorous at all. His family was always on the move, chasing work across California, packing up and starting over again and again. That restless life built Clint into a man of quiet strength and sharp independence. As a kid, Eastwood wasn't the loud, spotlight-seeking type. He was that silent observer in the corner, taking in every detail. That calm, steady energy became his trademark on screen. Music was his first love, especially jazz and the piano, and it shaped the rhythm and tone he'd later bring into his films. Even back then, he was soaking up the art of timing, mood, and silence like a pro. After high school, Clint didn't jump straight into Hollywood fame. He hustled. He worked as a lifeguard, a lumberjack, and even at gas stations, real hard, hands-on jobs that kept him grounded and gave him respect for everyday workers. That blue-collar grind would later show up in the grit of his movie characters.
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5?
Making movies, do you enjoy it more now, or?
I do. I enjoy it. As much. I couldn't calculate that, but I enjoy it because it seems easier now. It's because get an idea and you kind of go with it. When you're a younger person, you wonder, am I doing the right thing? What is this? What is that?
His acting career started almost by chance after serving in the U.S. Army, but it wasn't an easy climb. Hollywood didn't welcome him right away. In the mid-1950s, Universal Pictures signed him up, only to drop him later, saying his looks, voice, and lack of charisma weren't good enough. But instead of giving up, Clint turned that rejection into fuel, and the legend we know today was born. Those early failures didn't break Clint. They built him tougher than steel. Every rejection only sharpened his determination to make it on his own terms. He kept grinding, studying acting, taking any small role he could find, and waiting for that one golden shot that would let him grow without selling out. That moment finally arrived in 1959 when he landed the role of Rowdy Yates in the hit TV show Rawhide. For 8 long seasons, he rode across America's living rooms, gaining fame, steady pay, and a place in Hollywood's spotlight. But deep down, Clint wanted more. He wasn't satisfied playing the same cowboy week after week. He craved stories with grit, depth, and danger. So he took a massive leap of faith, leaving American television to chase a risky opportunity in Italy. That decision changed everything. In the mid-1960s, Clint signed on for a low-paying role in Sergio Leone's groundbreaking Dollars trilogy, A Fistful of Dollars for a Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Those movies didn't just entertain, they flipped the entire Western genre upside down. Clint's man-with-no-name character became legendary, cold, mysterious, and deadly calm, speaking few words but saying everything with just one look. He wasn't the loud hero or the classic cowboy. He was something new, something dangerous. His quiet power, that slow-burning confidence, redefined what toughness meant on screen. The success of those films didn't just make Clint Eastwood a global star, it handed him full creative control over his destiny.
I don't know. I don't look at him. He's different. He's somebody else.
Well, that's all right.
I'm inward looking outward. I'm not looking back inward.
So when you see Scott now, your son, he looks so much like you. Is it weird to look at him now and you're thinking when you started out and you see him and he looks kind of almost exactly like you did?
Well, he's doing well. He's got a few projects and he's getting some kind of activity, and I hope he has as much luck and fun doing it as I did at that stage, and still having at this age.
When Clint came storming back to Hollywood in the late 1960s and 1970s, he wasn't just another actor, he was a force of nature. With hit films like Dirty Harry, he carved out a reputation as the ultimate no-nonsense, tough-as-nails lawman who didn't play by the rules. The character of Harry Callahan split audiences down the middle. Some cheered him on as a symbol of raw justice in a chaotic world, while others slammed him as a warning sign of cold, hard authoritarian power. The debates were wild. But Clint didn't flinch from the controversy. He never saw Harry as a simple good guy or bad guy. To him, his characters were layered, flawed humans navigating messy morals, not political statements. That's what made his performances hit so deep. He brought edge, attitude, and a strange kind of honesty that made every role feel real. During that time, Clint proved he could do it all. He moved from westerns and thrillers to romance, comedy, and psychological drama like it was nothing. Films like Play Misty for Me, High Plains Drifter, The Outlaw Josie Wales, Every Which Way But Loose, and Escape from Alcatraz showed off not just his acting skills, but his growing control behind the camera. He wasn't just starring anymore. He was studying, experimenting, and setting himself up for something much bigger. As a director, Clint developed a style that was unmistakably his, clean, quiet, and powerful. He used natural lighting, short takes, and subtle storytelling that let emotion and tension speak louder than words. His movies dug into deep themes, aging, guilt, violence, and redemption, things Hollywood rarely touched with such raw honesty. All that mastery came to a head in 1992 with Unforgiven, a haunting western that tore apart the myths of heroism and gunfighter glory. It wasn't just another cowboy flick, it was a reckoning. Unforgiven didn't just win Clint Eastwood respect, it crowned him as a legend. The film swept the Academy Awards, earning him Oscars for Best Director and Best Picture. That moment sealed his place among the greatest filmmakers to ever step behind the camera. And instead of slowing down, Clint went on a streak of cinematic power moves that proved he wasn't done making history. Films like Mystic River, $1 Million Baby, Letters from Iwo Jima, Gran Torino, Changeling, and American Sniper kept audiences hooked and critics speechless. Each one packed emotion, grit, and the quiet strength that only Clint could deliver. But Clint's legacy doesn't stop at Hollywood's borders. Across the ocean, Europe embraced him as one of cinema's true masters. He's been honored with 3 César Awards, France's equivalent of the Oscars, a massive sign of respect from a culture that treats filmmaking like sacred art. Those awards recognize not just his success, but his deep influence on storytelling, morality, and character in American cinema. The American Film Institute also gave him its coveted Life Achievement Award, a rare tribute given only to icons who helped shape what Hollywood is. By then, Clint wasn't just a movie star, he was a cultural blueprint for integrity, focus, and artistic independence.
It was not a bad thing. People didn't take themselves that seriously at that point in time.
Then came another crowning moment. In 2000, the Venice Film Festival honored him with the Golden Lion for Lifetime Achievement. That's one of the most powerful global recognitions any filmmaker can receive. It celebrated a lifetime of work defined by quiet emotional power, moral complexity, and a signature style that never needed to shout to be felt. And France, they went even further. In 1994, the French government named him a Commander of the Order of Arts and Letters, their highest civilian honor. More than a decade later, they recognized him again, proving Clint Eastwood's impact wasn't just lasting, it was legendary. In 2007, Clint Eastwood received one of the highest honors any artist could ever dream of, France's Legion of Honor. This wasn't just another trophy on a shelf. It placed him among an elite circle of global icons whose impact reaches far beyond borders or generations. Together, all these awards tell the story of a man whose artistry can't be boxed into one era or one country. His legacy has shaped and inspired the entire world of cinema. But behind the Hollywood lights, Clint's personal life was just as layered and far more complicated. His marriage to Margaret Maggie Johnson stands out as the longest and most complex love story of his life. They first crossed paths back in 1953 when Clint was still an unknown kid hustling for any kind of break. At the time, he was juggling odd jobs, lifeguard, laborer, anything that paid the bills, while chasing acting dreams that kept slipping through his fingers. Margaret was everything Clint wasn't at that stage: calm, intelligent, and grounded. She brought a sense of balance when his life was nothing but uncertainty and chaos. They tied the knot on December 19, 1953, beginning a marriage that would stretch over 3 turbulent decades. In those early years, money was tight, fame was nowhere near in sight, and doubt was always lurking around the corner.
Through it all, Maggie stood by him, offering strength and stability, while Clint fought to get noticed in an unforgiving business. Her support became the backbone of his rise. She kept things together while he faced rejection after rejection. Then everything flipped when Rawhide hit television screens from 1959 to 1965. Overnight, Clint went from struggling actor to household name. With fame came fortune, attention, and endless opportunities, but also new pressures that began to crack the foundation of their marriage. As Clint's star shot sky high with Sergio Leone's Man with No Name trilogy and later the Dirty Harry films, the couple faced storms that would test their bond for years to come. Clint's rising fame came with a heavy cost, and it started to reshape everything in his personal life. His non-stop filming schedule, constant travel, and growing independence began to pull him away from the quiet world he and Maggie once shared. While Clint was out building his legend under bright Hollywood lights, Maggie preferred peace, privacy, and the comfort of a simple home life. Over time, that difference became impossible to ignore. Their marriage turned into a story of two people living in separate worlds. The distance, both emotional and physical, grew wider with every passing year. And then came the rumors, the headlines, the whispers everyone in town seemed to know about. Clint later admitted to having affairs, something that complicated what was already a fragile relationship. Yet, despite all that, they stayed legally married for decades. It was an arrangement built on deep emotional layers, part loyalty, part responsibility, part unspoken understanding. Together, they raised 2 children. Kyle Eastwood, born in 1968, who followed a creative path as a talented jazz musician, and Allison Eastwood, born in 1972, who stepped into acting and filmmaking herself. Through all the ups and downs, Maggie's heart stayed focused on her kids. She worked hard to keep a sense of family intact, even as fame tried to pull everything apart. By 1978, after 25 long years of marriage, Maggie and Clint finally separated, though the official divorce didn't come through until 1984. That long gap said everything. Their lives, their memories, and even their finances were deeply tangled. And when the split was finalized, it turned into one of the most expensive divorces Hollywood had ever seen. Maggie Johnson's story remains deeply tied to Clint Eastwood's legacy, and her presence in his life can't be overlooked. Her loyalty through years of struggle and stardom reflected not just love, but endurance. She was there long before the fame, weathering every storm that came with Clint's rise to global icon status. While Hollywood glittered around them, Maggie kept her world quiet, raising their children far from the chaos of flashing cameras and gossip headlines. Their marriage might not have lasted forever, but it shaped Clint's entire understanding of family, sacrifice, and the steep price that comes with chasing greatness. Now, at 95, Clint Eastwood looks back with a kind of honesty that only comes after a lifetime of wins, losses, and lessons. He's no longer interested in impressing anyone. He's seen too much, done too much, and earned the right to speak his truth. Reflecting on more than 70 years in Hollywood, Clint doesn't just talk about himself, he talks about the whole industry, how it's evolved, and how its values have shifted over time. And when the topic turns to Rob Reiner, Clint's tone surprises people. There's no anger, no grudge. Instead, he speaks with calm wisdom, saying Hollywood's biggest issue isn't people, it's purpose. He believes the business has lost its heart. It's no longer about telling stories that bring people together, but about chasing division and noise. "I've never had a problem with Rob as a filmmaker," Eastwood says plainly. "He's talented. You don't make the movies he's made without understanding character and timing." Clint even gives Reiner credit for his earlier work. those heartfelt stories filled with humor, warmth, and real human connection. To Clint, that era of filmmaking stood for something pure, a time when Hollywood cared more about craft and truth than about making statements or choosing sides. What really unsettles Clint Eastwood isn't just Rob Reiner himself, it's the bigger shift he's seeing happening all around him in Hollywood. Somewhere along the line, Clint reflects, the business stopped being about curiosity, it became about certainty. And to him, that's deadly for art. He believes once creativity becomes locked in certainty, real storytelling starts to die. In Clint's eyes, Reiner represents a Hollywood crowd that's lost its tolerance for disagreement, confusing moral conviction with moral superiority. That, he says, is where the heart of the industry started to fade. Clint draws a sharp contrast between their philosophies. I never believed my job was to tell people what to think, he explains. My job was to show people who they are. That's classic Eastwood, blunt, grounded, and confident. He says even his most controversial films were never meant to preach or push an agenda. They were designed to make people think. Whether he was directing westerns, war dramas, or slow-burning character pieces, Clint always trusted the audience to figure things out for themselves. He never needed to lecture. He wanted to spark reflection. For Clint, the divide between him and Reiner isn't about politics at all. It's about purpose. Rob wants to win arguments. Clint says, I want to ask questions. To him, that's the difference between art and activism. He remembers a time when Hollywood was full of creative tension, when people with totally opposite views could sit in the same room, challenge each other, and still shake hands at the end of the day. Now, he says, that energy is gone. There was a time when you could disagree and still respect each other, Clint recalls. Now, disagreement feels like a moral crime. He believes Reiner's loud activism isn't just personal, it's symbolic of a bigger Hollywood problem, where too many mistake volume for virtue. Moral certainty closes doors that storytelling should leave open. Clint Eastwood's words cut through like a quiet thunderclap, simple, sharp, and true. He's not out here asking for sympathy or playing the victim. Nobody's silencing me, he says with that calm confidence that's pure Clint. I've had my say. What worries him isn't himself. It's the new generation of filmmakers who feel trapped by fear. They're scared to be honest, he says, shaking his head. And fear has never made good art. When asked if Rob Reiner even understands what he's really saying, Clint pauses. The kind of pause that says more than words ever could. I don't know, he admits finally. People hear what they want to hear. He makes it clear this isn't personal beef. It's a deeper critique of a Hollywood system that's forgotten its soul. Rob didn't create that system, Clint adds, but he's comfortable inside it. That, he says, is the real danger, when comfort replaces curiosity, when outrage replaces reflection. At 95, Eastwood isn't chasing payback or headlines. His tone is cool, almost peaceful, like a man who's made peace with every battle. Life's too short for grudges, he says with a faint grin. What still matters to him isn't money, trophies, or red carpets. It's freedom. I'd rather make a movie that makes people uncomfortable, he declares, than one that tells them they're perfect. That one line captures his entire legacy. Truth before popularity, art before ego. So, when Clint Eastwood talks about Rob Reiner, it's not gossip, it's grief. A quiet sadness from a man watching Hollywood trade curiosity for conformity. Hollywood used to be a place where outsiders belonged, Clint says. Now it's a place where everyone's trying to prove they're on the inside. And that, to Clint Eastwood, is the real heartbreak. Not losing fame, but losing the fearless spirit that once made Hollywood great. If you felt this story hit deep, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment. Let's keep this conversation alive.